there's certainly a hunger for it. A lot of us have been praying for revival in America for a while. And as the cultural decline takes place, as things get worse, it's very natural for there to be a turning back to God. And so I look at that. I also look at the Jesus Revolution, and we didn't talk about this, but the film just came out. I went and saw it last week. I was growing up in the 70s when that occurred. And if you look back over history, if you look at the First Great Awakening and the Second Great Awakening that happened in the 1730s, 40s, and 50s, and the second was in the early 1800s, what you tend to see is about 30 or 40 years later, something big happens. And so, of course, in the case of the First Great Awakening, it was the American founding, which was huge. In the case of the Second Great Awakening, it was abolishing slavery, which was equally as huge. And right now, if you're a Christian, you have a Christian worldview, and you're looking at what's happening in America, you're praying for a return back to the principles that this nation was founded on, which is going to be a big deal for us to work through as a nation, which is why I wrote the book, incidentally, to help address that.
I know widespread revival, great awakenings always lead to social change. Now, in your book, you discuss the American Christians who become stagnated in their faith. Others are indifferent about God and Christ. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the book is about really solidifying our citizenship duty that Christians have. And incidentally, this is our duty no matter where we live. It's not just an American thing. What I did with the book is I went through the Bible. I had questions myself about the legitimacy of the founding. Was it really justifiable? If Jesus said you should pay your taxes, and the colonists didn't want to pay their taxes, was that really biblically justifiable? So I went through the Bible and did an exhaustive study, just looking at all the verses that had to do with nations and rights and justice and governing. And Gary, I was flabbergasted at all the information I found. And as I lined it up, starting in the Old Testament, actually starting back in Genesis 9, you learned that we really have a citizenship responsibility to step forward and lead in the area of civil government, which is completely contrary to what the modern evangelical church says. Their basic theological position is submit and pray. No matter what, just submit and pray, which is, of course, they get that from Romans 13 and from 2 Timothy 1. But that's not where we first learn about our citizenship duty. We learn all about that in the Old Testament. And so that's what I do in the book. I lay it all out. I address all these objections. And then more importantly, I show how in America, what makes America truly unique is our Declaration of Independence, which I assert is our national founding covenant, which we need to get back to and discuss as a nation, because it really is what defines us.
Why is it important that we understand the meaning of these documents and our Judeo-Christian roots as a nation? Seems like we're forgetting that.
Yeah, and that's the whole reason for the title, right? Rediscovering the American Covenant. So it's critical, first, as Christians living out our faith, I maintain if you want to aspire to be a mature believer, then you should be involved in governing in your local community, in your state, and in the nation where you live. That is part of living out your faith. And I lay that out. I describe what that looks like. It doesn't mean that we're all going to political rallies and doing these things, but it does mean that we have a responsibility to vote for people who believe in our national founding covenant, the idea that there is a law of nature and of nature's God, which is a description of the moral law that comes right from the Bible, the idea that our rights come from God, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is really our citizenship duty. And that's the argument that I make. And my target audience for the book primarily are mature believers, pastors who are looking for a really strong biblical argument for why we are responsible for civil government. So that's the target audience of the book. And I'm hoping to engage in a national conversation eventually about our national identity, which comes from the Declaration of Independence.
Well, this may be the best time. The book is Rediscovering the American Covenant, Roadmap to Restore America. Mark Burrell, thank you for setting us straight today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary.
Also on the global lane, persecution against Christians is rising in China, and a pastor is arrested in Myanmar. We're going to talk to former Religious Freedom Ambassador Sam Brownback. And in Great Britain, the Church of England teaches 4-year-olds about gender fluidity. You can see the global lane this evening on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8:30 Eastern. You can watch it on the CBN News app or YouTube as well.